Human trafficking has unfortunately been a term widely used in all parts of the globe, and only in the last 10 years is it getting the media and government attention that it deserves. To put it plainly, modern-day slavery is a real thing affecting real human lives. Children all over the world are illegally trafficked and sexually abused, but there is a group right here in Lethbridge that's standing up for their rights. Not4Sale is an organization that has a passion to free those who are caught in the sex trade around the world. Joining me now is Joy-Lynn Stickel, who heads up Not4Sale, and also Jen Tribble, who is working with Joy-Lynn on this wonderful project. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about this topic and about hearing more about this. So let's start with where it began. And Joy-Lynn, I believe that began with you, right? I want to know, what was the vision behind this and how did this begin?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, I went to a conference and heard about human trafficking for the first time. And I had never heard about it before. I never knew that this was an issue. I never knew that kids were being abused this way. And my heart just broke. And I came home to my husband and said, I don't know what we can do. I don't know if what the two of us can do will make a difference, but we need to do something. And from that, Not4Sale was birthed. And so we just decided to step out and trust God with what little we could bring to the table. And since then, we've had amazing people come around us. We've had organizations that have just poured into this. And and we've seen really great things happen with being able to touch kids' lives in different ways.
Now, this is such a huge thing.
Yes.
It's like, how does one even get the ball in motion? How do you even start to do this? It sounds really dangerous to go and save a girl. How do you do this?
Yeah, so it's different in different parts of the world. We're reaching out into Canada now, but we've been to Cambodia, and we are now working in Mexico. And so even between Cambodia and Mexico, there's different issues with government, there's different issues, especially in Mexico, with the cartels. And so you just have to, you have to know what you're working with. It is dangerous, for sure. And so especially now, what we've been working with in Mexico, it's been a lot of kind of learning what cartels are for, what cartels are against, and there are some that are fighting this as well, right? And that's what they stand up for, is the lives of children. But then there are some that aren't. And so we are involved with the government in Mexico. We're involved with locals in Mexico who kind of have a feel for what's going on there, and we need that. We can't just go in as Canadians and say, okay, well, we're gonna go save the world, without understanding the dynamics of the culture and what happens there.
Did you see a huge difference between Cambodia and then now being in Mexico?
Not huge per se. I think the biggest thing is, like I said, is the cartel in Mexico. There's not so much that dynamic in Cambodia, but there is still government things. I know we heard a story of one group that rescued a girl who belonged to one of the high ups in government, and somebody got killed because of that. And yeah, so there's corruption everywhere. Obviously, there's human trafficking everywhere, right? And that's corruption. So there's not tons that we notice different besides kind of the cartel and. Yeah.
Right. How do you find these girls? What do you do?
So in Cambodia, we worked with another ministry, and so our job as Not4Sale was to raise the finances and to staff the home, and so we did that. And this other group had a really good system going where men would go undercover into the brothels, and they were part of this other ministry, and they would go and just kind of get rapport with the madams who kind of oversaw everything, right? And they would, usually in the brothels or on the streets, you see the older girls, like 15, 16, 17.
Amazing that's the older girls.
Exactly, I thought of that when I said that. It's horrible. But they kind of hide the little ones, and the little ones are the ones that we want to help. We want to help as many as we can, but the little ones are the ones that it's harder because of government restrictions, and because of social services and all that, a lot of groups aren't working with the little ones because it's really hard to get approvals and get things running with that. So that's our heart. That's what we want to do, and it's a lot of.
Now, when you say the little ones, how little? Like 8?
Definitely 8. We've seen some as young as 6 in Cambodia, and we've heard stories as young as newborns, and so it's horrible for sure. As personally, with our ministry, we've had 2 girls in our home so far in Mexico, and they've been 8 and 12. Yeah. And as far as going back to your question of how we get them, so in Cambodia, we worked with the other ministry, but in Mexico, these 2 girls we found just through a relationship with some of the local ladies who they just knew a lot of people on the streets. One of the ladies that was ministering with us was trafficked herself when she was younger, so she knew what to watch for and she knew all that. So so these 2 little girls were just through relationship and kind of hearing, okay, grandma up the street is selling her granddaughter and she needs help out, and so we got in there and were able to help with that.
That's unbelievable. Now, Jen, how long have you been working with Joy-Lynn?
I think I came on about 7 years ago working with the organization, and I've loved every minute of it. We've got to do just some amazing things, and it's been an honor and a privilege to help this lady.
And you have gone to Mexico a couple times?
I have, right? We've done 2 trips there so far, and probably many more to come.
Yeah. Right. What was your involvement when you went to Mexico? What did you get to do?
So the first trip we went with the team, which was a pretty amazing experience. We got to minister at a ladies' rehab facility. We also got to visit a couple of their local outreach programs. They have like a cardboard community. So we got to do a lot of the kind of like hands and feet on the ground kind of ministry work and establish connections. So that was really big for us. We got to kind of learn a little bit more about Mexico and the culture and what was going to kind of work there and translate well to Mexico, as well as on the second trip down, we started kind of looking for facilities, again, building relationships and connections. Right. And so that was a big part of those 2 trips.
Wow. When you say cardboard communities, what do you mean by that?
That's kind of how the missions base there described the area, and basically it's just a very impoverished, low-income area where literally people are living in cardboard huts.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so sad.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have an actual established house, right? But you work with an organization that kind of finds you a place to put these girls, basically?
Right now, we actually are working to get a house of our own.
Right.
And just this week we signed a lease, and
Wow.
so it's very exciting that way. And so now we need to go through all the government approvals with that. And so Not4Sale itself brings in funds from donors, and we organize it all and work it that way. And then we have 2 staff down there who are local girls who just pour their hearts into. Right now, it's all the background work, all the stuff that's not flowery and whatever, not the stuff that you see on the websites, but all the government stuff and all the real estate stuff and everything. So so all that is happening right now in hopes to have girls in the very near future.
Yeah, that's amazing. Speaking of your website, there are some stats on there that I noticed, like how expensive it is to operate the house and what. So maybe let's get a little bit into that.
Yeah, absolutely. We broke it down to having it costs about $1,000 a month per girl, based on having 10 girls in the home. And that seems like a lot. That covers the rent, that covers the staffing, the food. Depending on the girl, we would probably want them to be homeschooled, just to keep them safe, right? And then they come in traumatized. We have some stories of some girls that we were able to help in Mexico there, and they come in just like it's not, okay, now you have a family and you're free and you're safe, so everything's good. No, they have tons of physical healing to do. They have tons of spiritual and emotional healing. And so a lot of that takes money, right? Having the counselors, having the doctors, having lawyers on call for being able to just help these girls out however they need.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say where in Mexico this is, or is it completely
No,
classified?
we do keep it classified, and it's scary out there because I know even in Alberta, the Mexican cartel is connected to Tabor and Alberta here, and so. So yeah, for the sake of our team and for the sake of the girls down there, we keep everything as hush-hush as possible.
I don't blame you. That is actually very terrifying. Like, that's really scary. So I am just wondering, how can people, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a heart for what you are doing, and how can people get involved? How can people help?
Yeah.
That's great.
Answer
Yeah,
that?
for sure. There's several ways you can get involved. If you'd like to actually actively volunteer with the team, we have a form on our website, so you can visit our website and fill out a volunteer form. If you'd like to donate to the cause, there's also, you can go to the website and you can donate there. You could sponsor a girl for $100 a month or a child for $100 a month. We have ways you can share online, so we have our Facebook and Instagram. You can go on there and share, like, advocacy and awareness is huge. Education is huge. So if there's events, we can come in and speak at events. We have merch products, so you can actually be a walking billboard and support the cause that way. But yeah, it's about just kind of being a voice and getting out in the community and letting people know that it is an issue and that it's out there and it's real and it's affecting people. It affects people in Alberta. And so if there's opportunities to share, we're more than happy to come in and to help educate and raise awareness. Yeah,
and it's interesting that you say that you mentioned Alberta, because I mean, we think of this as being something that happens overseas and beyond the borders, but it actually does happen right here.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are reaching out into Canada, so we're just looking at, again, government stuff and what would it look like to be licensed and to work in Canada. And it's very exciting for us because there are actually quite a few groups, but obviously not enough because there's still kids being trafficked out there. So in Canada, what we're finding is that everything's really quite underground, but in Canada you're not going to see brothels or you're not going to see young prostitutes on the street as you would in the countries that we've been in. But just kind of what our heart is with what Jen was saying with awareness and education is to educate even parents, right, as to what to look for with your kids online, what to look for if they see something off with their children or if they're acting differently beyond puberty, right?
Like, what's that?
What is this? Yes, that's a whole thing unto itself. But yeah, just educating that. But what we are wanting to do is to bring a safe home here as well, and just work with the government, work with the police. We have someone on our team who is in the police force, and they've had situations where girls have been brought in to the police station and they have nowhere to go. And so that breaks our hearts, and that's something we want to work with.
I know that, like, speaking of your website, again, there's tons of stats on the amount of or the number of children that are being exploited. Do you have those numbers off the top of your head?
Well, yeah, and anything you look up, they're all like, because it's so underground, these are just either scratching the surface or we have no clue. But around 27 million people around the world are trafficked, and about 1.2 million children are brought into trafficking each year. And then also it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, money-making business out there. Which
billions.
Like 32 billion is the last stat that we've been able to find. And it's above drugs, it's above arms trafficking. And the reason for that is the commodities, is what they say, are reusable. And so it's not like you've used up drugs and you can't reuse them. So it's a horrible thing, and it's because it's such a big money maker, that's part of what makes it so dangerous. One of our girls in Mexico came in, and her story was she was 12, and she came in because I think it was her older sister was taking care of her, and she probably wasn't that much older, maybe 14. Her parents were out on drugs all the time and would sell the girls in order to get drug money. But the older sister, through relationship again, told one of our girls that sometimes the little sister was gone for weeks at a time because she was trying to find food or trying to find somewhere to sleep. And so when we were able to bring her in, she was nonverbal. Like, she was so traumatized by her life that she wouldn't talk, and she was just in a really bad place. She had never gone to school. She didn't know how to spell her name. And when she came in, she was in our home for probably 3 months. And she just, the transformation in her life, just because she knew she was loved, she knew she was safe. She started talking, she started going to school, she started loving going to church. That was her favorite day. She would count down on the calendar when church was. And yeah, it was just so good. She went to school and was able to kind of just excel in school and just became a whole new girl because she felt safe and felt loved. And so that's our heart. Like you said at the beginning, it's so big. What can we do? And we're like, if we can help one girl, this is all worth it. But we'd love to help more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Joy-Lynn, Stickel, and Jen Tribble, thank you so much for joining us here. It's just been it's been an honor to have you and to speak your hearts with me. Thank you so much for joining us.